The rooftop door explodes open under a brutal kick, and the late afternoon sun catches the aluminum bat as it rises above Connor Hale's head like a guillotine made of hickory. Below him, on her knees, blood already streaking from a split lip, is the new girl no one really knows yet, Evelyn Reyes. Her green sweater is torn at the shoulder, her dark hair half loose from its ponytail, and her eyes. God, those eyes are locked not on the bat, not on the phone recording every second, but straight into Connor's soul with a calm that feels colder than the October wind whipping across the roof. Behind Connor, 4 of his lettermen, jacketed friends laugh the kind of laugh that only exists when someone believes they're untouchable. In the background, a dozen other students form a loose semicircle, phones up, hungry for the next viral tragedy. Connor snarls the words that have ruled Jefferson High for 3 straight years: break my rules, pay the price. The bat starts its downward arc. 5 seconds begin now. But let's stop the frame right there, because what happens in those 5 seconds didn't start on this rooftop. It started 4 years earlier, 2,000 miles away, in a sun-bleached neighborhood most of these kids have never even heard of. Evelyn Reyes grew up in Barrio Logan, San Diego, where the murals are brighter than the future and the sound of gunfire at night is just the neighborhood saying goodnight. Her father, Staff Sergeant Matteo Reyes, came home from his 3rd tour in Afghanistan missing the bottom half of his left leg and carrying a quiet rage that only his daughter ever learned to read. He taught her one rule that mattered more than any other: never start the fight, Misha. But if someone else does, you finish it so hard they never start another one. Every evening after school, while other kids were doing homework or scrolling TikTok, Evelyn was in the garage with her dad learning things the Marine Corps calls combative fundamentals, and the streets just call surviving. Footwork drilled until her sneakers smoked on the concrete, elbows sharpened on a heavy bag made from an old tire. Breathing techniques that let her slow the world down when everything was screaming. She hated it at first. Then she got good. Then she got scary good. When her father finally nodded and said, "Nof, you're ready," she was 15 years old and could put a 200-pound man flat on his back before he realized the fight had started. But nobody at Jefferson High knows that. All they know is that the new girl from California showed up in September wearing thrift, store jeans and zero interest in the social hierarchy. She didn't laugh at Connor's jokes. She didn't flinch when his crew, accidentally, knocked her books out of her arms in the hallway. She didn't beg when he cornered her after 5th period and laid down his so-called rules. Freshmen and transfers walk the long way around the senior courtyard. They don't speak unless spoken to, and they sure as hell don't sit at the table Evelyn chose on her 3rd day. The one everyone knew belonged to Connor's girlfriend, Madison. One quiet act of defiance, one empty chair taken, and the king decided the new girl needed to learn the price. Back on the roof, the bat is halfway down. Connor's grin is wide and cruel and certain. The phone in his buddy's hand shakes with excitement. The crowd holds its breath, and Evelyn moves. It isn't flashy. It isn't some Hollywood spin kick. It is pure economy, Marine Corps efficiency wrapped in 17-year-old muscle memory. She surges forward from her knees, left hand snapping up to control the wrist holding the bat, right hand driving palm, first into the inside of Connor's elbow. The joint hyper extends with a wet pop that silences every laugh on the roof. The bat clatters uselessly to the ground. Before Connor can even register the pain, Evelyn's weight is already shifting. She pivots, drops her hip, and throws him in a textbook harai, goshi that sends 210 pounds of varsity linebacker sailing over her shoulder. He lands flat on his back with the sound of a dropped watermelon. The air whooshes out of him in a single broken syllable. 4 seconds have passed. The 5th second belongs to silence. Connor's friends stand frozen, mouths open. Phones that were recording straight on now dip, unsure whether to keep filming the king on his back or the new girl standing over him, chest barely moving, blood still dripping from her lip, but eyes absolutely calm. She doesn't gloat. She doesn't posture. She simply looks down at the boy who thought he owned the school and says, soft enough that only he can hear, "Your rules don't apply to me." Then she steps over him, walks to the rooftop door, and disappears down the stairs as if nothing extraordinary just happened. But everything has changed. By the time the final bell rings 40 minutes later, the video is everywhere. Not just at Jefferson High, everywhere. Twitter explodes. TikTok stitches it into oblivion. Someone slaps dramatic music under the 5-second clip and titles it, "Quiet Girl Ends Bully's Whole Career in One Move." The comments are a war zone. Half the internet calls her a hero. The other half screams that she's dangerous, that Connor was just joking, that a girl shouldn't be able to do that to a boy twice her size. The principal suspends her on the spot for excessive force. Connor's parents threaten lawsuits. The local news shows up with vans and cameras, hungry for the next culture war sound bite, and Evelyn Reyes disappears. She doesn't come to school the next day, or the next. Rumors swirl. Expelled, arrested, moved back to California. The throne Connor spent 3 years building collapses overnight. His crew splinters. Madison dumps him in the cafeteria while half the school films it, and suddenly nobody wants to sit anywhere near the table that started it all. Connor himself walks the halls with a sling and a stare that doesn't quite meet anyone's eyes anymore. He tells people the video is fake, that he let her win, that she's a psycho. But every time he says it, his voice cracks just a little. 2 weeks later, on a grey Thursday that smells like coming snow, the fire alarm goes off during third period. It's not a drill. Black smoke pours from the chemistry wing. Students flood into the parking lot in the controlled chaos only teenagers can manage. And that's when they see her again. Evelyn, standing at the edge of the crowd in the same green sweater, now cleaned and stitched, watching the school with an expression no one can read. What nobody knows yet, what the security cameras catch but nobody notices until much later, is that Evelyn never really left. She's been showing up after hours every night, slipping in through a side door a janitor named Mr. Park leaves unlocked because he, too, once had a daughter who paid prices she shouldn't have had to. She's been sitting in the library, studying for the GD she decided to finish early. She's been running laps on the track long after the field lights shut off, training harder than ever, because the suspension letter said she couldn't step foot on school property, but it didn't say anything about the shadows. And she's been watching Connor limp through the halls pretending nothing happened. Watching the freshmen who used to get shoved into lockers now walk with their heads up. Watching teachers who always looked the other way suddenly enforce rules they used to ignore. She never wanted fame. She never wanted the video. She just wanted to eat her damn lunch in peace. But the universe, it seems, had other plans. The fire turns out to be small, some sophomore trying to impress his lab partner with magnesium. It's under control in 20 minutes. Students are sent home early. And as the crowd thins, one person stays behind Connor Hale, standing alone by the flagpole, staring at the smoldering building like he's trying to figure out where everything went wrong. Evelyn walks up to him. No phones this time, no audience, just two teenagers and the weight of what happened between them. He flinches when he sees her. Actually flinches. "I didn't come here to fight," she says. Connor's jaw works, but no sound comes out. "I came to tell you something my dad told me after his last deployment," she continues. "He said power that only works when people are afraid isn't power. It's just fear wearing a crown. And crowns fall." Connor looks at the ground. "You ruined my life." "No." Evelyn answers, voice soft but unbreakable. "You built your life on making other people smaller so you could feel taller. The second someone refused to shrink, the whole thing collapsed. That's not my fault." She turns to leave. "Wet," he says, so quietly she almost doesn't hear it. When she looks back, his eyes are red. I'm sorry." The apology hangs in the cold air like it's physically heavy. Evelyn studies him for a long moment. "Then prove it," she says, "starting tomorrow. Be better, or don't, but stay out of my way either way." She walks off into the grey afternoon, and Connor Hale watches her go, the sling on his arm suddenly feeling like the heaviest thing in the world. Spring comes early that year. The suspension is quietly lifted after the school board watches the full security footage. The one that shows Connor dragging Evelyn to the roof, shows the bat, shows her trying to back away until she had no choice. The charges disappear. The viral video gets a new title on some channels. She didn't just beat the bully. She saved the school from him. Evelyn never comes back as a student. She finishes her GD in March, first in the state. Colleges start calling before she even applies. She picks a small school in North Carolina on a full ride-roti scholarship, planning to commission as a Marine officer like her father before her. But before she leaves, she does one last thing nobody expects. On the final day of classes, she shows up at Jefferson High wearing her dress blues. Sharp enough to cut glass, ribbons already on her chest from a summer training she crushed. She walks the halls one last time. Students part like she's Moses and the Red Sea is made of lockers. She stops at the senior courtyard, the same table where it all began, and leaves a single folded note. Connor finds it after last period. Inside, in clean handwriting, are 8 words. Your move, King. Make it a good one. He keeps the note. Years later, people who know him as Coach Hale, the guy who runs the toughest but fairest youth wrestling program in 3 counties, say he still carries it in his wallet, creased and soft from being read 1,000 times. And Evelyn Reyes. She becomes the kind of officer legends are built from. The kind who never starts the fight but always finishes it. The kind who teaches her Marines the same thing her father taught her. Real power doesn't need a crown. It just needs 5 seconds and the courage to stand up when everyone else is kneeling. Outro. So here's what I want to know. When was the moment in your life you decided enough was enough? When did you, or someone you know, refuse to pay the price someone else tried to force on you? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. And if this story hit you the way it hit me, do me a favor. Hit that like button so YouTube shows it to someone who needs to hear that they're stronger than they think they are. Share it with the kid who's scared to walk down their own hallway tomorrow. And if you want more stories about the quiet ones who change everything when they finally speak up, subscribe and ring that bell, because the next one might just be about you. See you in the next frame.